And now the stream is live, so therefore I can just begin with asking, how has everything been going down, quite in these recent times?
Things have been going down. To be honest, it's been everyone like, when the corona story started, everyone thought things might get like boogie woogie, that we might actually see like, things getting violent in South Africa, and for like surprisingly we haven't. To the credit of the ANC, if I can say that, even we haven't seen any bad shit happen. The government has used every single opportunity they've been granted to push policy, though, but that's been the case globally. But our government's really it's been an exception. Every chance they get to push a new crappy law, they will take it during this time, and that's worrying as a citizen. If you see this new, everyone's so distracted and keep fucking ranting on about the coronavirus. I'm more concerned about the government, to be honest. Things haven't been the best. I mean, if we compare South Africa to most European countries, we have a far stricter lockdown system, or we had at least. And as things are going right now, it's more up to standard with the rest of the world. But I mean, we were locked in completely. You weren't allowed to leave your house or anything. You can do anything really, and that's been tough. And I know a psychologist that I know has said that a lot of his clients has been struggling, suffering during this time. And he's been getting a lot of new clients because we weren't made to be locked into our homes like this. It's completely unnatural, and that's taking its toll on people. And in turn, that toll takes on people, plays another toll on the people they interact with. Even though interaction isn't the most common these days, I think everyone feels isolated.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I would say that one of the few things, well, not few things, but one of the things I like about South Africa is compared to most other countries I've spent a long period of time is that when I'm there, I feel less isolated from other people as I am when I live in other places, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, what's your opinion, if I can ask on a different matter, of the actual chances of this leading to violence in South Africa? The mass unemployment and the lingering economic collapse?
Well, I would basically say that I think it's a possibility, but government policies have been doing those things for a long time now, so I'm not sure that it's going to be that big of a
The fact of the matter is, if people are starving, they will find food. They won't sit and starve and die. And I specifically refer to townships in this case, because they'll get hit first. No matter how you look at it, townships will get hit first. Now, will they sit around, or will they go out and look for food? Like, I mean, South Africa is one of the lost breadbaskets of the southern regions of Africa. We had Zimbabwe 40 years ago and Rhodesia, and now that's gone. I mean, Namibia isn't producing much either way. So if South Africa reaches food insecurities, and I mean, the attacks on farms the past few months have been radical. It's been radically, and like the thievery as well, just cattle slaughtered for no reason, like a few cows stolen, the rest just left to rot. I mean, we could really face food insecurity, and I mean that would be catastrophic not only for like specific areas in South Africa, but for the whole southern half of the continent. When you really start thinking about it that way, you start to worry and think, I mean, what's the chances of this running the course that every African country runs, where eventually you get an economic meltdown, civil war, and then a failed state?
Yep, that is a concern I also have. I haven't followed that much, but it is very true. But also wonder is that if you look at countries like Namibia, right? Don't they like have they are like sustainable, right? Like they still have they just can't export it because it's not enough, but they can like still.
I don't know if Namibia is sustainable though.
Probably.
Doesn't Namibia rely on us for electricity support as well? I know Zambia does, and Zimbabwe does.
Sure. Well, of course they do.
I'd imagine that Namibia is highly integrated with South Africa in terms of resources because it used to be a part of South Africa. I think all of those old connections probably didn't just go up in the air when SWAPO took over.
Yeah, that would actually be possibility, but I'm not entirely sure about that. The reason why is because the way they separated from South Africa makes it a little bit more likely that they wouldn't, because I think that when they got independence, South Africa didn't really want much to do with Namibia. Like, there was basically, I don't think that South Africa at that time would want to support Namibia. So if they have started to do it now later down the line,
And what period though? What do you mean? Which period?
when they got their independence.
I don't know though, because sorry to interrupt your initial point, but no, I just have to add that SWAPO, ZANU, ANC, they're all the same thing, just different organization. They were buddies since the start. They got supplied from the same people and all kinds of shit like that. So I don't see why they would see each other as enemies straight off the bat. For example, the ANC banned all private weapon exports to Israel the moment they got in power. I don't expect they would do something like that in terms of banning exports to Namibia, since that step with these, bro. But yeah, what was your point?
Oh yeah, that was because if Namibia, when they got independence, and they probably would have been self-sustaining away from South Africa at that time. If you look at South Africa now, it doesn't really produce much electricity. So that's the reason why I don't. So I see a reason why they would want to preserve their independence.
We export oil, I think it is, to Swaziland or Eswatini. It's for we actually give it to them at a fixed rate, so we give them all the supplies they need in that regard, and I believe for electricity as well, and we cannot cut them off. So, for example, if there's load shedding in South Africa, we actually don't give load shedding to Swaziland. That's how my one buddy explained it to me, and he's from Swaziland, but I don't know how accurate it is, because on the other hand, I have a person studying with me from Zambia, and he says they have load shedding now like crazy. We don't have load shedding in South Africa. So I don't really, I'm not too sure exactly what the connections are under.
No, I do believe you, but I do believe you, and that's like to just give other countries more electricity than what on citizens. Like, that's just evil. And we both know that the reasoning why electricity is so expensive, especially for poor people, then we know that this is because of government regulation. And it's actually brings up a very interesting memory.
You're moving to the Western Cape maybe next year. So what do you think is the chances of, on a different topic, sorry, I like to jump between topics, I'm ADHD. What do you think of the idea that Cape Town can actually, or the Western Cape can actually secede from South Africa?
No, I actually do believe that's possible. Do you think it's safer for me to just not show my face when I talk about this?
I don't really mind, bro. To be honest, I always argue people should stay anonymous as much as possible. My life's philosophy is people should be able to say what they want anonymously, not for their own safety, but for the safety of the people who live with them. I think that's a fair form of reasoning. And some people like to say, "Oh, if you're anonymous, you're a coward," and that's the last thing you are, bro. That just means you're not a traitor.
That's so true, because if yeah, that's actually very true. So that's a lot of people.
I don't care about risking myself. I care about risking people I know. But either way, yes, Cape independence.
Oh, I basically said that. Well, no need to say, but I basically thought that the reason I believe that would be feasible is because the only thing that would stand in the way would be the government. But the government seems to be very, as most governments are very, just want to enrich themselves and care about themselves, and are very like egotistic in that way. And don't care about people. This is how governments are, generally speaking. So, but I do believe they might want to give independence to the Western Cape. The reason why is because the Western Cape generally vote against the government, right? So if the government could give the Western Cape independence, they could remain in power for much longer than they would otherwise.
Here in the Western Cape, we generally have an attitude that the ANC would do anything to screw the Western Cape over because we don't vote for them. For example, many people believe we would be on a lower lockdown or higher lockdown level than the rest of the country as punishment for voting DA. So that is the general attitude of people here. Like, to be honest, I don't think the government will be able to stop an eventual secession, but that would be in like 10, 15 years. And the thing is, if an eventual secession happened, the army would be bankrupt by then, because at the current rate, it's going downhill fast. So they wouldn't really be able to stop us. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah, that's
Secession
true.
isn't entirely legal when you look at it in exclusion, but the UN actually determined that secession is legal given the right circumstances. So discussing secessionism is both undesirable and desirable at the same time.
No, that is true. And also, like, if you look at the Westphalian sovereignty, it's like, and the whole idea about something being a nation is different than being a country. And a nation is a region or a population with a certain given shared culture and history and identity, right? And
Yep.
irrespective of the diversity of the Western Cape, you could argue that the people that have living there for a long time might be religiously and ethnically diverse, but do have a very much a shared history and language. So
Yes.
you can't classify it as a nation under and that is something that is upheld by many of the UN treaties of what determines a nation.
I believe many would argue that before secession comes Vertrek 2.0, everyone climbs up and drives back towards the Western Cape and we try to fix the country by making a new one. So I think the whole shared identity, shared history, shared culture thing would be highly impacted by recent events leading up to the secession, if the secession would possibly happen, especially in terms of it being an Afrikaner state.
Oh yeah, that's true. Very, very true. And also, I do definitely believe that would be very good for other minorities, because, like, if I look at my own ethnic heritage, which is a bit odd, especially from being in South Africa, as I know my dad's side was Scottish and my mother's side is German, right? I would rather be a minority in the Western Cape, and in like, if you heard about the Volksstaat movement idea, you know that?
There are so many Volksstaat movements. Yeah. But is it literally just called the Volksstaat movement? Because then I might have heard of it once, but not regularly.
Oh yeah, but I would rather have you as the majority and still being a minority than being a minority in the way I already am in South Africa now. It's far preferable minority
status. With these radical race-based laws, I mean, BE is an absolute nightmare. And I mean, we're the only country in the world that gave relief to businesses based off race for coronavirus. On the entire planet, the only country that went and said, okay, we're going to divide relief funds up to the populace by their specific races. It's only South Africa that did that. And I mean, does that mean we're racist? Yes, it fucking does. Obviously it does. The hypocrisy of the modern, I don't know who to address of this, but the way that people look at these things, like, well, okay, when the Africans do it, it's fine. When the European settlers and colonists did it, it was wrong. I mean, and then the next breath they say racism in all forms is right or wrong. And that is definite hypocrisy, in my opinion. Like, I'm rambling at the moment, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. There's definitely a inconsistent narrative here. And the Afrikaner or the white South African is the person who gets the bad end of this narrative.
Oh yeah, that's actually quite. No, that's very accurate. It's horrible and it's very evil, and the reason why they have this double standard when it comes to racism is because, like, these people, right, the politically correct crowd, they don't really care about. They don't like the European race at all. Like, they mainly hate the European race. The main reason why
our history, our culture, everything. We're imperialists. We're racists. We're the scum of the earth.
But I usually bring that all of a sham, right? Because I think the main reason why they hate the European race is because the European race are, on average, right, the race that have many individuals that tend to be in support of things like individual rights and national sovereignty. And if you look at support for things like individual rights in other parts of the world, like Middle East and East Asia, right? Then the obvious claim that you as an individual, your ideas that matters, your ideas, your desires, your life goals is something that matters, and that your voice should be heard.
Yeah, so I watch the Daily Wire. Like, I don't watch them too often, but like sometimes I just do it for fun. I don't like them too much, but still, they made a good point when they showed these Antifa people that were getting beaten up by the Black Lives Matter protesters, right? And then they raised the point, these guys don't actually give a shit about black people. All they want is their communist state. And that's and Antifa is inherently anti-white. There's no other way to put it. So if what you're saying is right, these people, they don't want to attack like just our race and exclusion. They want to attack our values, our ideas, our history, everything about it, and create something new in its place. And they don't care about the consequences. They don't care about ripping out the foundation underneath the structure and under the threat that it might collapse. For all they care, and they just want to start off new, which is a very, very dangerous way to look at life.
It's also very anti-human.
That's what they're called,
like if you look at, yeah, but the main reason I also say about this is that, like I basically say this. I just lost my train of thought. Is that they, if you look at ideas that they usually hold, that are like communism, Marxism, and Marxist-Leninism and all that crap, right? If you look at history, right, people say they are so much against European race, right? And they adhere to these very bad ideas, right? And a lot of people don't know it, but it's true that if you look at these radical leftist founding fathers, or idealists, or you know what I'm talking about. If you look at both Lenin, Marx, and Stalin, right? Neither one of them were European. And not many people know that, but they were.
Was Lenin not Eastern European? I know Marx had some Jewish blood.
No, he was Chuvash, which is a Turkic people.
Huh. How about that? I learned something.
Like I'm very much into anthropology, right? So I'm very well versed about race and ethnicity. I want to like much learn about that topic.
Yeah.
So
I only recently learned that Iranian means Aryan.
Oh yeah, that's so true. Like the Iranian Iranic people, or the Iranian peoples, are one subsection of the Aryans, whereas the Indo-Aryans are the other ones, but they are not pure. The Indo-Aryans are Aryans mixed with Dravidians, whereas the Iranians are the pure Aryans.
Yes. Interestingly, this makes Zoroastrianism technically a cousin European religion.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But the internet is because
if you take it a step further, you can even raise the point that therefore largely the Old Testament of Christianity is largely influenced by Aryanism. Because I mean, the argument that Zoroastrianism molded Abrahamic faith is very easy to make. It's right there. It's very easy.
Oh yeah, even the three wise men that came to
marry they were Magi.
Exactly, sir. Not many people know that.
And before someone starts ranting in the comments about how paganism is the best religion, true European religion. Filthy Iranians aren't European.
No, they might not be European, but both Iranians
and 4,000 years ago, I'd argue they were as European as we are today.
And also the as I said, the Aryans, right? The Iranians are the pure Aryans, whereas the Indo-Aryans are Aryans mixed with Dravidian, right?
How do you pronounce it? Is it Davians?
Dravidian.
Yeah, Dravidian. Okay, there we go.
so that's the reason why the Indo-Aryans. Pardon?
Yeah, you'd like the channel on YouTube Survive the Jive, perhaps? I don't really agree with all this shit, but he makes some good content.
Oh, thank you. But the point I was making was that the Aryans and the Europeans they used to be one people, but then they separated into the Aryans and the Europeans, right? Yes. So we are technically cousins. Like the Europeans and the Aryans are very much related to each other, right?
Yes.
Like if you were to compare, if you compare, for example, West Africans like the Bantus and all other West Africans to the Nilots, and the Nilots and the West Africans are far, far, far more.
Yeah, they're very different. Like I know what they look like. Just by looks alone, holy crap! I mean,
yeah.
they're the tallest people on Earth, aren't they? Like statistically, the tallest people.
Definitely.
I could be wrong. Either way,
No, they
are Bantus inherently Western African? I thought they were Central African.
No, the Bantus are West Africans. The Central,
they're Southern Africans. They're colonists as much as we are, if not more.
Oh yeah, they pretty much are. The only reason why they don't call it colonists because, like, okay, if someone is a colonist, that means that one like state, right, owns a piece of land in a different region, right, and then it's a colony of that state, right. There's like a colony, and if you travel between that, then you're a colonist, right. But if you are just expanding or just moving, then you are a settler. If that makes sense, like that's the distinction is that almost all colonists
felt like
because the Boer republics they were not colonists because they did not belong to another state. They were settlers. In the same way, the Bantu tribes, the Zulu Kingdom, were also settlers because they were not a colony of another region.
That's why I always said so we try to explain it to people. When the Boers moved into Africa, they didn't do it to move resources back to Europe. They did it to live in Africa because they wanted to be Africans. There was no incentive to, like, even the original Dutch people that came and eventually evolved into Boers were people who largely, not largely, but in many cases were trying to get away from the Catholic Church. Because there was like in the early days of Protestantism, like we basically, right when the medieval period ended, we went and climbed on our ships and went to South Africa. It's shocking. Like, when people think of South African colonization, they think of America, and they try to post America's history on us. It's radically different. It's so radically different. It's nothing the same.
That's 100% true, because that's the reason why so many Afrikaners have French background too, like Dutch and French in Germany.
Yes.
So I read about that history because, like,
if you look at those,
they were horribly mistreated by the Kingdom of France, and even people say like, "Oh, you go back to your country," and then to people that are Afrikaners,
we were exiles to begin with.
It's like, do you want people to go back to the Kingdom of France? There's no such thing as the Kingdom of France on the planet, so you can't go back to something that you that doesn't exist, like the Kingdom of France, which is like not a country anymore. It's gone. It's been gone for God knows how long. So it's like that doesn't make any sense.
Just hold on one second for me.
That's fine. Oh, I just wonder, should I link the stream in our server?
That's when you can link it.
Perfect. I'll do that. I just named it something because I didn't know what to name it, so I just named it something that came to mind. I just gonna keep talking.
I'm back to speaking. Yeah, we've been going for it's 9 o'clock now. So, is there anything you want to end off with?
Sure, we can keep going for a while. Like, we can keep going for how long as long as you feel like it.
Okay, well, in that case, then I think I'm gonna head off for now because we hit 24 minutes, and that's a good time. Next time we can bring in some more people and actually have a discussion.
That makes sense. But before we end, do you mind if I end with a note of comparing the colonization of South Africa with United States?
Yeah, you can, sure.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to mention is that people should be also kind of interesting to know that in the United States, before it became the United States, and even before it became part of the Britain, most of it belongs to Sweden, the Netherlands, and France, right? So a lot of the original American settler population, right, they were actually of Frisian descent. So it wasn't really as Anglo as people think,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is like a parallel of the French heritage of the early settlers in South Africa. So
New York used to be called New Amsterdam as well.
and also
Or it almost was called something like that. I just noticed a relation.
True, and also people like to say that we aren't like colonized people, which is like really weird because the British Empire sure did colonize us, and I'm not talking about the because my mother side we also Cypriot, right? The British Empire colonized the Cape Colony in the same way they colonized Cyprus. So when all the people wanted like just because we're white and we are not colonized, and that's not true because we kind of were in a way.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'm gonna head off now, bro. So thanks for the talk. That was fun.
Perfect. I'm very satisfied with it. With the
I'll see you again next time.
Great idea. Bye bye, everybody.